Hello guys. Welcome back with me. By the way, are you still having trouble finding a job? For those of you who are still unemployed, I pray that you will find a suitable job quickly. Why are we suddenly talking about work? Because this time I'm going to discuss and review a story about a guy with no social life, who finally gets a unique job, becoming a bodyguard at a funeral home. The movie is called The Vigil and was released in 2019. Interestingly, this horror story is presented from the perspective of a Jewish man. Wow, are you curious how scary it is? Instead of taking too long, let's go straight to the storyline. But as always, don't forget to subscribe. The story begins when the main character approaches some of his friends who are chatting in the dining room. They are all living their lives as casual workers. With a haggard face, the main character expressed his frustration.
Yeah, but this guy,
He complained that his monthly income was insufficient not only for his daily needs, but also for the cost of treatment for his illness. Hearing her complaints, her friends were also concerned. But since they were in the same boat, all they could do was encourage her. Moments before she left for home, her eyes suddenly glazed over. She panicked when she saw a strange man standing outside her apartment as if he was waiting for her.
Excuse me. Membership, I don't want to have to call the police again.
When he was about to drop Yakov off, one of his friends named Len immediately approached the mysterious man and reprimanded him for making Yakov restless. Len even mentioned that Yakov had decided to quit his path as a rabbi. To avoid an argument, Yakov hurriedly calmed Len down and asked him to return to the apartment. Soon after, the formally dressed man, who turned out to be a former colleague of Yakov's during their religious studies, invited him to talk. He told him that he had an interesting job offer. Knowing that Yakov was struggling financially, the man offered him a job as a shomer, a bodyguard in Jewish tradition. The job involves guarding a corpse for one night only, and the pay is quite generous, $800. The offer made Yakov immediately enthusiastic, and without thinking, he agreed to the job. They continued their journey together down the silent night streets. Arriving at the funeral home, Rem, the manager of the place, told him that tonight Yakov was assigned to look after the body of an old man named Reuben. It is known that Reuben lived alone with his wife who suffered from severe Alzheimer's, aka high levels of senility. But before leaving Yakov, Rem warned in a serious tone. He said, some of the previous guards were unable to complete their task of guarding Reuben's body. Strangely, they always quit with unclear reasons. This made Rem a little worried, but Yakov took it in stride. He didn't want to make too much of it. When he entered the house, Yakov was greeted by Sima, the wife of the late Reuben. However, the old woman immediately showed hesitation. She felt that Yakov was neither fit nor ready for this task. Sima even advised Yakov to leave now before it was too late. Yakov was silent for a moment, but inwardly he thought it was just a result of Sima's relapsing illness.
That means a lot.
Okay.
The night went on quietly. To get rid of the loneliness, Yakov played DJ music at a low volume, just to get rid of boredom. Not only that, because he was too bored, he was also seen opening his cell phone and starting to look for tutorials on how to approach girls, considering he had been single for years. However, the silence of the night was suddenly broken when Yakov heard a strange noise coming from the attic. The sound made him panic and anxious. Amidst the tense atmosphere and increasingly absurd events, Yakov began to feel his anxiety relapse. He was seen trying hard to calm himself down in the midst of an increasingly bizarre atmosphere. While wandering around the room, Yakov suddenly came across a Reuben family photo that had fallen to the floor. When he picked it up, he felt a strange pain, especially when he realized that a mysterious black shadow had also appeared in the photo. Not only that, a strange word was written on one part of the photo, Mazik. Although confused and a little creeped out, Jakob decided to put the photo back into a nearby book. But not long after that, a heavy drowsiness suddenly attacked him. Unable to resist, Jakob fell asleep. When he woke up, Jakob immediately panicked because he felt stroke-like symptoms in his hand. But thankfully, a few minutes later his hand returned to normal. The panic immediately turned into a happy smile when he received a message from his crush, Sarah. Unfortunately, the happy moment did not last long. Strangeness came again. Suddenly, Jakob was sent a video from an unknown number. In his mind, he tried to calm himself down by thinking that maybe all this was just the result of Seema's senile mind. But strangely enough, the video that was sent was immediately deleted, before he could open it further. As he tried to distract himself, another odd sound came from the direction of the kitchen.
Slitvak.
With slow steps, Jakob approached and saw something that made his hair stand on end, a pair of legs that dragged themselves, crawled across the floor, and, suddenly disappeared. His fear grew as he felt like something was stuck in his throat. When he looked in the mirror, Jakob was shocked to see some sort of web-like blob emerging from his mouth. But when Seema came over, all the hallucinations seemed to vanish into thin air. In a confused state, Jakob began to help Seema clean up the broken glass. In the midst of this activity, Seema suddenly told him a heart-wrenching story. She and her late husband Ruben deliberately kept their children away from home, not out of hatred, but because they wanted to protect them from a curse that had long haunted their family. But before Seema could finish her story, Jakob suddenly grasped the broken glass firmly.
Wait, this is Slitvak.
Jakob finally went down to the basement. There, he found an old videotape of Ruben with Seema.
These are not beings of ill.
The room was also filled with papers with various symbols and notes stuck to the walls. In the video, Ruben reveals a shocking confession that for almost 50 years, he has been shadowed by a demon named Mazik. The demon is described as a parasite, which will slowly take over a person's body by manipulating the host's bad memories. Ruben explains that Mazik has horrifying features. His neck appears twisted and he can mimic his victims' faces, making it difficult to tell the difference between real and fake. But Ruben doesn't just give a warning, he also divulges a way to break the curse. He says the curse can only be broken on the first night that Mazik appears. But before the video was over, Jakob's eyes were distracted. His focus was on Ruben's lips in the video, which seemed to imply something, as if signaling that the terror was now targeting him.
Essences of a soul and higher to her. I write it down. Don't be doomed.
The tension peaks when Jakob is startled by the sudden appearance of a creepy creature believed to be a witness to death. The figure appears right in front of him, without warning, leaving Jakob frozen in fear. In a chilling voice, the creature reveals a horrifying fact. The demon Mazik has now chosen Jakob as its new host. This meant that Jakob would never be able to escape the terror that followed him because Mazik had already planted its grip on his soul. In a state of panic, Jakob hurriedly asked Seema to stay put while he attempted to find help.
Hello?
Yakov, hi, it's Dr. Cole.
But bitterly, Seema warned that Jakob could never truly leave the house. Like a Wi-Fi signal that weakens as it moves away from its source, Mazique's curse would also remain connected to Jakob as long as he remained a host. Jakob's panic grew as he saw another figure approaching him slowly. And sure enough, when he got near the house, a monstrous figure with a terrifying form attacked him suddenly. The creature's body was so strong that Jakob immediately lost consciousness and fell unconscious. When he wakes up, Jakob finds himself confronted with the trauma of his past, when he was a rabbi. In the flashback, Jakob recalls a dark event when he and a young student were the victims of an attack by a group of brutal youths. The little boy he was mentoring at the time was sadistically attacked for no apparent reason, and his body was suddenly mutilated. Jakob, who was still weak and full of fear at the time, could only stand still, unable to defend his student, could only hug the boy's body while crying and hoping for help to come. But the trauma didn't stop there. The boy who had managed to escape from the attack was killed by an Angkot. All those bitter memories came rushing back, leaving Jakob with a deep sense of guilt and sadness. That is the main reason why Jakob still suffers from severe anxiety. But the sadness didn't last long. Jakob's tears turned to panic when Ruben's body suddenly disappeared mysteriously, as if dragged by an invisible entity, like a cat stealing a fish, vanishing without a trace. Under severe stress and increasingly cornered, Jakob finally made a video call with Sarah, a woman he had always admired. There, he poured out all the strangeness he experienced, from apparitions, strange sounds, to his belief that he was now under the curse of the Mazique demon. She also revealed that the demon was increasingly attracted to her because of her unhealed past trauma. However, what surprised Jakob was Sarah's reaction. Instead of showing sympathy, Sarah blamed Jakob directly. She said that it was Jakob's cowardice in the past that caused the boy's death, and not Mazique's curse as Jakob thought. Distressed by guilt, Jakob again saw the apparition of the little boy he had been unable to save. The boy looked at him with sharp eyes but seemed hesitant, as if he wanted to speak.
Lost in my weakness. I'm so sorry, man.
Jakob, overcome with guilt, immediately approached him and softly expressed his deep regret for the past events. But as his consciousness began to clear, Jakob realized that all of this was just an illusionary game from the demon Mazique, a cunning way to manipulate his emotions. He immediately rushed to Shima's room, asking about the whereabouts of Ruben's body that had mysteriously disappeared earlier. At the same time, Emak finally realized that Jakob used to be a rabbi, someone who was familiar with religious rituals. With great conviction, she hands him a set of ritual items. The items are believed to be able to break the curse and end the terror of the demon Mazique, provided Jakob can conquer his own trauma. Hearing this, Jakob prepared himself, even though the audience around him both literally and metaphorically were disappointed because the hope seemed fragile. But Jakob went ahead anyway. Once all the equipment was ready, he began to search for the demon. Amidst the tense atmosphere, Jakob realized that the demon's face was slowly changing to resemble his own, as if mimicking the deepest side of his trauma. With full confidence, he began to cast spells and suppress all his past fears, trying to fight not only the demon in front of him, and finally, like a flame from a match head touching gasoline, Mazique's demon head was burned, and the curse fell as the dark energy disappeared. The next morning, the scene changed drastically. The demon was now trapped back in its home dimension, and the process of healing Ruben began. It was then that the origin of the curse was revealed. Ruben was deeply traumatized when she was forced by Nazi soldiers to kill her own sister. While reciting prayers and exorcism mantras, Jakob asked Ruben to let go of the resentment and pain in her heart, asking her to be sincere so that the demonic shackles could be broken. Slowly but surely, the Rukia's efforts succeed. Ruben is finally freed from the clutches of the demon Mazik.
Let them go!
Amidst the emotion, May, Ruben's wife, came over and thanked Jakob for saving her husband from the shadows of darkness. With a faint smile of relief, she said that she wanted to welcome the new day without sadness by taking a morning walk and absorbing the positive energy of nature. Some time passed, and Jakob stared at the bottle of medication he used to take for anxiety. He felt that all his horror experiences had awakened him and unexpectedly cured him of his own fears. Shortly afterward, Reb arrived with the funeral attendants. After completing his task, Jakob was rewarded with $400 as a token of appreciation for his courage in facing the unexplainable. Outside, his happiness is further enhanced when he receives a message from Sarah. She invited him to have coffee together at the cafe where they usually met. Though simple, for Jakob it felt like a ray of light after a long night. That's all for this movie discussion. Thank you very much for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss other interesting videos. See you in the next video.